In December of 1998, 17-year-old Joseph Albert Oberhansley stormed into his grandmother's home in West Valley City, Utah, to confront his girlfriend, Sabrina Elder. She had just given birth to their son 5 days earlier, but Joseph was in no mood to celebrate. High on substances and without any warning, Joseph pointed a pistol at Sabrina and shot the mother of his baby to death. He then pointed the gun at his own mother and shot twice. As his sister attempted to flee with the baby, he fired a round towards her as well. Finally, he aimed at himself but managed to survive. Joseph was arrested and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Bail was set at $1 million, reflecting the severity of the case. But here's the twist. Despite the cold-blooded nature of the crime, the eyewitness is able to take the stand, and plenty of direct evidence, Joseph walked away with a maximum 15-year sentence. And here's the kicker. He was back on the street before his son reached his teens. Years later, Joseph Oberhansley would resurface in a courtroom, tied to new charges in a whole different case.
Charges and allegations against me are false. That's why they won't let me talk to you people.
What do you say about the death penalty?
They're holding back all my mail. I haven't been able to receive
What do you say about
mail,
the death penalty?
any phone calls, letters, anything. So for all my family and friends out there, you know why I haven't been able to respond?
How did you get the death penalty?
Joseph Oberhansley was born on March 29, 1981, and grew up in West Valley City, a quiet suburb in Salt Lake County, Utah. By his own account, his childhood wasn't just good, it was better than most. His family backed this up, remembering him as a kind-hearted boy with no real history of trouble or violence. But in 1997, tragedy struck hard. Within a matter of weeks, Joseph lost both his older brother and his father. Emotionally shattered, he spiraled into substance abuse and developed a short fuse. His schoolwork took a hit as well, and he dropped out of Hunter High School at just 17. Not long after, police records linked him to gang activity. Around the same time, his 16-year-old girlfriend, Sabrina Elder, became pregnant, but their relationship quickly fell apart. Despite their breakup, Sabrina moved into Joseph's grandmother's house for support, living with his grandmother, mother, and 13-year-old sister. Joseph wasn't happy with this arrangement and doubted the baby was even his. Still, on December 4, 1998, Sabrina gave birth to Joseph Oberhansley Jr. But the brief joy of their son's arrival would soon be overshadowed by violence. 5 days later, on December 9th, Joseph showed up at his grandmother's house, glassy-eyed and high on methamphetamine. In a blind rage, Joseph suddenly pulled a gun out of a bag and shot Sabrina 5 times. She was pronounced dead at the scene by the Utah State Medical Examiner. At the time of the shooting, Joseph's mother was holding the baby. After laying him down to tend to Sabrina, she was shot twice in the back and arm. In a desperate bid to escape, Joseph's 13-year-old sister grabbed the baby and tried to flee. Joseph turned and fired a shot at her from close range, but missed. She wasn't the only lucky one. Joseph survived a self-inflicted wound, albeit with a bullet lodged in his frontal lobe. The baby was unharmed and quickly placed in state custody. Joseph and his mother, Brenda Self, were airlifted to a nearby hospital in critical condition. Mrs. Self was released after 2 days, but Joseph remained for 3 weeks. Once discharged, he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and attempted murder. Held on $1 million bail, the case seemed open and shut. Yet, prosecutors later struck a deal, reducing the charge to manslaughter, a second-degree felony. The maximum sentence? 15 years, with parole eligibility after just 1 year. How did Joseph walk away with such a light sentence, and why was this allowed to happen? Let's dive in. Prosecutors initially charged Joseph with first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted murder, but the case weakened when his family refused to testify. The defense raised mitigating factors, including claiming that his head wound was actually a beneficial injury that could result in him becoming a calmer, less aggressive person. They also argued diminished responsibility due to drug use and stress from his family's deaths. Given these factors, the state accepted a plea deal, reducing the charge to manslaughter, a second-degree felony carrying up to 15 years in prison, and a $10,000 fine. In June 1999, a judge, relying on a psychologist's report, deemed Joseph no longer a danger and lifted his $1 million bail. On July 1, 2004, Joseph attended a parole hearing with both the victim's relatives and his own family present. The audio offers a compelling glimpse into how these hearings unfold. It starts with the parole board recounting the tragic events of December 9, 1998, the day Sabrina Elder was murdered.
The shot missed her. She grabbed your 5-day-old son and ran from the room. You then shot yourself in the head. The report indicates a bullet went in your chin and lodged in the front of your brain. When police responded to the scene, they noted that you were alive, semi-responsive. However, Sabrina was dead. Your mother was unconscious but alive. She and you were life-flighted to the hospital. She was treated for a shattered arm and some internal damage to her kidney and liver. You were comatose for a time, but underwent surgery to remove the bullet, or I guess at least some bone fragments. I don't know how much was removed. And you were hospitalized for another 2.5, almost 3 weeks. Your new girlfriend at the time, Mandy, said you were furious with Sabrina. Said you'd call her an effing bitch, whore, things like that. You'd talk about how you could kill her.
But I would say all that is inaccurate. Mandy, she was never my girlfriend. It was just more of a friend. And also, she gave numerous false reports to the police on other things, situations. I'm sure it's in there.
She said the night before this, you said you were going to, quote, shoot the f***ing bitch. You think you said that?
I would disagree with that.
Next, the board gave Joseph's mother the chance to testify. Even though Joseph had committed violent acts against her, she may have felt conflicted but still wanted to support her son in hopes that he had changed or rehabilitated during his time in prison. Family members often attend these hearings to show support, offer testimony about the defendant's character, or provide insight into their behavior since the crime.
You are Brenda Self, the mother of Mr. Oberhansley, correct?
Correct.
Please go ahead.
I just want to, I don't know how to really go about this. I think you got a pretty good idea of how I feel towards this. But I do believe that Joseph did not intentionally have this planned. I think the drugs had a lot to do with it. And I'm here to support him. I know Sabrina to me is alive in spirit. And I believe that Sabrina would forgive Joseph. Truly, I do.
Next up, one of Sabrina's relatives spoke, his voice steady but laced with raw emotion, determined to sway the parole board. Every word was a plea for justice, a desperate attempt to keep the man who shattered their family from being released back into the world.
My name is Sabrina's uncle.
Thank you.
We didn't get to say much we didn't get to say nothing at the hearings or nothing. But I want you guys to know before you make your decision on this parole what effect it's had on our lives. My dad, myself, everybody who loved her. It has torn his family apart. The happiness is always shrouded by, well, you remember when you remember this. And we love to see where old Sabrina is and she's no longer with us. And for such a crime, and intense as it was, we feel that 5 to 15-year sentences, wasn't enough to begin with. But even to consider parole at 5 years is just, I don't know, asinine. I'm not trying to tear the state apart, but we're not ready. And there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hurt. We feel violated still. And she never had a chance to be a mother. I think it's too soon.
Appreciate you taking the time to come down here today. Thank you very much.
The hearing concluded with a Q&A session between Joseph and the board. Some of Joseph's responses raised concerns with one of the members.
All right, Mr. Oberhansley, you've had a chance to hear the testimony that's just been offered. I'd like to give you a chance to respond however you think is appropriate.
I mean, there's no way I would never try to endanger him or risk him, never be a threat to him. I want nothing but the best for him. He's my little boy. And I understand, what I've done or whatever, and that I couldn't be the best father to him or whatever, and I understand that, I accept that. And therefore, if they have adopted him or whatever, I wouldn't try to interfere or nothing whatsoever, But I would like to, if I got out and established myself and had my life on the right track, and became successful, starting my own business and got my own place or whatever, maybe when he's old enough to let him make the decision on his own if he would want to meet me. And one other thing I would like to mention is I received a letter today from, I guess that you guys just recently received yourself, from my cousin.
Go ahead, I was going to ask you about that.
In which she states, if we to be truthfully, totally honest, you guys have the phone records or whatever, you guys could pull it up and see. I've never spoken with her on the phone, a conversation with her since I've been incarcerated. To tell you the truth, I don't even really know her that well. And then she refers to, I have some tattoo. I have no such tattoo either. And then just where she states that.
Okay, well, let's put it on the record if I can find it here and give you a chance to. She says, she talks about how she doesn't think you ought to get out. She says, the reason I feel this way, besides the obvious fact that he killed Sabrina, is because he is not sorry for what he has done. I know this because of several incidents. The first is the tattoo that he got while in prison. It reads, "Evil thoughts, murderous deeds." Now you're saying you have no such tattoo.
I have no such tattoo, sir.
Another incident happened one day when I was visiting my grandmother. Joseph called my grandmother on the phone, and she handed the phone to me and said, "Here, talk to him." I started talking to him, asking questions like, "What have you been doing?" He answered, "Lifting weights. I'm getting really big." So I said, "Well, what are you going to do with yourself when you get out?" His answer, "I don't know." I then decided it was time to find out if he was sorry. I asked, "Joseph, are you sorry for what you did?" His answer was, "No, I did what I had to do." Did that conversation ever take place?
No, sir, it never did. And I believe you guys have the phone records or whatever. If you really wanted to go to pull it up, you're more than welcome to prove what I'm saying is true.
Well, I mean, are you saying the phone records would show you never had a call to your grandmother?
Well, no, I've called my grandmother, but in no such call have I ever spoken to April. I have not spoken to her since before this crime has ever taken place. And that's the honest truth.
Did you ever tell anybody that you had a tattoo that read anything like that?
No, I have no such tattoo. The tattoo that I have a tattoo like my mother was saying, a big portrait of Sabrina that says "in loving memory," and just a few other ones. But I have no such tattoo that states that.
Okay. I think we've touched on all the points that I wanted to ask you about. What else would you like to say here today?
I would just like to say, I'm sure you guys already know from the letters you've received from me, but I'd like to stress the fact on how remorseful and regretful I really am for this crime. Like I've said, me being here in prison is punishment, but it doesn't hold a candle to what I feel inside my heart emotionally and that I go through every day. Not one day goes by I do not think of Sabrina. I did really love her. And just, you know what I mean? I ruined I caused a lot of heartache and pain on everybody's life, on her family's lives as well as my own. As you see, everybody that's came forward to make statements or whatever against me has been pretty much my whole family.
I do do have reports from the prison indicating you're a good worker. You've been involved in numerous programs.
Yes.
Bible study, anger management, victim impact, substance abuse, Alcoholics Anonymous. You've now graduated high school.
I've graduated high school. I'm enrolled in my first semester of Salt Lake Community College Electronics Trade Program.
And all of that's very commendable. No anger problems?
No anger problems. I've never had any convictions of any dirty UAs nor fighting write-ups. Which the report that Belinda Espinosa she did a psychological report on me.
I'm told that there is, in fact, a tattoo on your back that says "murderous deeds." True or false?
On my back, that is true, but not the rest of whatever that says.
Now, why, when I asked you just a minute ago about the tattoo, you said your answer, if I can recall, was no, I don't have anything like that.
Well,
and now
this evil thoughts, murderous deeds. I don't know. I have no tattoo like that.
Okay, I guess, well, we probably differ on what constitutes a similarity, but you've done a lot of good things since you've come in here, Mr. Oberhansley. I don't know what the board decision is going to be. That we make our decisions by a majority vote of 5 board members, so I'm going to have to take your file back and share it with the others, and we'll notify you of that by mail in a few weeks. I guess one thing that concerns me, and I don't know how accurate I am in reading this, I mean, I think you're sorry, and yet it's almost as if you're sorry, it's like you'd hit somebody's dog or something.
No, sir, in no way am I trying to minimize this crime or nothing. I mean, I am very truly sorry, coming from my heart.
The Utah Board of Pardons and Parole set Joseph free on July 10, 2012, after he had served 12 years of a 15-year sentence. He then applied and was approved for what is known as an interstate compact parole agreement that allowed him to relocate to Indiana to live with his mother. It would be up to local authorities in Indiana to report any police interactions to the Utah Parole Board until his 2-year parole term ended. During his time in Indiana, Joseph's mental health issues and legal troubles only deepened. He held a job at a car dealership for a while, but by March 2013, just 9 months after arriving in Indiana, things took a darker turn. According to court records, Joseph met a woman at a bar in Jeffersonville and agreed to go home with her, under the impression that they were going to get it on. Instead, a fight broke out and neighbors called police. When officers arrived and knocked on the door, a woman answered, screaming, "He's killing my boyfriend!" It turned out Joseph was being set up to be robbed. He was arrested and charged with strangulation and resisting law enforcement, but was released on a $1,000 bond. In the following months, Joseph faced minor legal issues, including speeding convictions and a charge of driving with a suspended license. Then, in July 2014, he was charged with criminal recklessness involving a deadly weapon and resisting law enforcement again. Following this incident, officers appealed directly to Clark County Chief Deputy Prosecutor Jeremy Mull and urged him to do everything he could to ensure Joseph stayed behind bars.
Police came to Mull and asked him to personally make sure that Oberhansley stayed behind bars. Mull had his bond set at $25,000 cash, but he didn't stay locked up for long.
Unknown to me, sometime after he was arrested on that warrant and kept in jail on that bond was reduced without my knowledge or my approval, and he was released from jail.
Mull says another prosecutor cut a deal with defense attorneys, reducing Oberhansley's bond dramatically, making it possible for him to get out.
I will tell you that I'm devastated that he was released from jail. It was my opinion from the beginning that he needed to stay in jail. That's why I asked for this high cash bond. And when I go in and say this guy's dangerous, he needs to be in jail, and he's put in jail, and then I move on to another case, and somebody lets him go, very dangerous things can happen.
Prosecutor Mull's claim holds up. The attorney who approved Joseph's reduced bond left office weeks later to move into private practice. Before leaving, the bond was significantly cut from $25,000 cash only to $5,000 cash or surety, an amount small enough for Joseph to scrape together the $500 needed for bail. Indiana was supposed to notify Utah of any police encounters, but there were conflicting claims regarding whether these reports were sent. Utah authorities stated they were unaware of any incidents, while Indiana officials maintained they had reported everything. In any event, Joseph was now free, and through his mother, he would eventually cross paths with his next victim. Tammy Jo Blanton was a true Hoosier, an Indiana native born on January 7, 1968. She graduated from Jefferson High School in 1986 and worked in medical billing and coding for a healthcare technology company. It was Joseph Oberhansley's mother who first introduced Tammy Jo to her son, and, according to her, Tammy Jo knew about Joseph's troubled past, even picking him up from prison once. Their relationship started fast, with the couple seeming happy at first. Joseph moved into Tammy Jo's house, but that's when Tammy Jo began to notice disturbing signs. He would fly into a rage over trivial things, which frightened her. Her friends had been suspicious of Joseph from the start. They Googled his name and discovered the chilling details of Sabrina Elder's murder. Alarmed, they immediately warned Tammy Jo. She took their concerns seriously, acknowledging that she knew he had a past, but explaining that Joseph had been vague about the specifics, simply telling her he did something wrong as a teenager. It seemed like ancient history to Tammy Jo. She planned to confront him about it that upcoming weekend, but she had no idea of the horror that would unfold. On Monday, September 8, 2014, Tammy Jo revealed to coworkers that Joseph had kept her tied up and assaulted her all weekend, only letting her go when she warned them that her absence would raise suspicions. Afraid to return home, she arranged to stay with a friend. 2 days later, Tammy Jo texted Joseph, firmly ending their relationship. "I just wanted you to know I won't be home. No one, and I mean no one, gets to terrify me like you did on Sunday. I will never forget it as long as I live." Joseph replied, trying to downplay the incident. "Baby, we had a great dinner Saturday. Don't let the negative enter your mind. You are my soulmate. Come to me, please. Come home. Talk to me, baby." Tammy Jo stood her ground. "You can choose to be in denial about what happened Saturday into Sunday. I won't be in denial." She threatened to press charges if he didn't leave. That evening, Tammy Jo returned home with her father and a male friend. They changed the locks and barricaded the doors with furniture. Knowing Joseph, she felt uneasy. Before bed, she texted her friends, "At the end of the day, I'm taking my life back. No one will take me down." Sadly, Tammy Jo and Joseph would meet one last time.
Hi, this is the Police and Fire Department. Did you call 911?
On September 11th at 2:52 a.m., Tammy Jo called the Jefferson police from her home to report that Joseph was trying to break in and was refusing to leave. 3 officers arrived and spoke with Tammy Jo and Joseph, who claimed he lived there but that his key was not working. Tammy Jo confirmed she had changed the locks and ended the relationship. The officers then instructed Joseph to leave and to resolve their differences in civil court. He did leave, but not before yelling at officers, "You always take the woman's side." However, concern arose among Tammy Jo's coworkers when she failed to show up for work at 9 a.m. One of them called her cell phone, and a man answered, claiming to be her brother. He said Tammy Jo was at their father's house caring for him. The coworker didn't buy it and contacted the police, who conducted a welfare check. An officer discovered signs of forced entry at the rear door, while 2 others approached Joseph at the front. Joseph claimed Tammy Jo wasn't home and that he had no idea where she was. After detaining him, officers found a bloody folding knife in his back pocket. As officers searched inside the house, they followed a trail of blood leading to the bathroom. There, police discovered Tammy Jo's lifeless body in the bathtub. It appeared that a section of her skull had been removed and a portion of her brain tissue was missing. Officers transported Joseph to the police station for questioning. He initially denied everything, but eventually confessed to breaking in, stabbing Tammy Jo more than 25 times, and eating part of her brain. He later also admitted to consuming her heart and a part of her lung. He was booked into the Clark County Jail and denied bail. In the months that followed, Tammy Jo's mother, somber and heartbroken, spoke out about the devastating loss of her daughter.
She was a daughter, she was a sister, she was an aunt, she was a friend. She was loved by many. A contagious laugh she had. She was a happy person. And she tried to help this fool. And this is what happened. Just isn't right that this person, this evil, evil, evil monster, did the things that he did to her.
Prosecutors questioned if he might be trying to lay the groundwork for an insanity defense.
There's nothing insane about him. He's just evil.
Linda Harbin met Oberhansley when he was dating her daughter. She says she knew something was wrong with him, but couldn't pinpoint it.
We was just getting close again, and I didn't want to say nothing. She was 47 years old. She'll always be my little girl, but she was grown. You know, what could you say?
Harbin wants a say going forward. She says friends and family are united in one thing. Oberhansley should get death.
He doesn't deserve to be breathing air right now.
Joseph Oberhansley's case took numerous legal twists and turns in the years following his arrest. Shortly after being taken into custody, he revoked his initial confession, attempting to backtrack on his admission of guilt. In a bizarre move, he also claimed that he wasn't Joseph Oberhansley after all.
My name is Zeus Brown. I don't know Mr. Oberhansley.
Who is Zeus Brown?
Me. I'm Zeus Brown.
Did you commit these crimes? I love you, Joseph.
I'm Zeus Brown.
In 2017, Joseph Oberhansley was declared unfit for trial and sent to a psychiatric hospital. By November 2018, he was deemed competent. Before the trial began, prosecutors withdrew their request for the death penalty, citing the high likelihood that Joseph's alleged mental health issues could result in a reversal of a guilty verdict. The trial began in 2019, but after presenting their evidence, the jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict, and the judge declared a mistrial. The prosecutor chose to retry the case, and after further legal delays, a jury finally convicted Joseph in September 2020 of first-degree murder and burglary. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole and is currently serving his sentence at the Newcastle Psychiatric Unit. Afterward, the prosecution and defense reflected on the long, challenging case in interviews with local media.
Joe's very distraught, obviously. Throughout the trial, Joe thought things were going well, as did we. Joe thought he'd be acquitted, and he wasn't. So at this time, he's taking it very hard, and I think that's understandable.
Now, just moments after speaking with Petal, Clark County prosecutor Jeremy Mull left the courthouse. Outside, a close friend of the victim waiting on him to embrace him and say thank you, telling WLKY they faced many obstacles together over the past 6 years, but praising Mull for never giving up. That is something she says she will always be grateful for. Now, Mull said he was determined to get justice not only for the victim, Tammy Blanton, but for those friends and family.
This was something that I intended to see through, and to make sure that this man was held accountable for his actions. He was brought to justice, and he was removed from the streets. And so today that happened.